Of all the interactions you have with technology in a day, interacting with artificial intelligence, or not, feels like a choice. But in some ways, it isn't. Over the past decade, we've become surrounded by AI systems that perceive our worlds, that support our decisions, and that mimic our ability to create. Whether we're aware of it or not is another story. Imagine a day like this. You do some exercise with a smartwatch, put on a suggested playlist, go to a friend's house and ring their camera doorbell, browse recommended shows on Netflix, check your spam folder for an email you've been waiting for, and when you can't find it, talk to a customer support chatbot. Each of those things are made possible by technologies that fall under the umbrella of artificial intelligence. But when a Pew survey asked Americans to identify whether each of those used AI or not, they only got it right about 60% of the time.
Some of these applications of AI have become fairly ubiquitous. They almost exist in the background, and it's not terribly apparent to folks that the tools or services they're using are being powered by this technology.
That's Alec Tyson, one of the researchers behind that Pew study. When Tyson and his team asked respondents how often they think they use AI, almost half didn't think they regularly interact with it at all. Some of them might be right, but most probably just don't know it.
We know about 85% of U.S. adults are online every day, multiple times a day. Some folks are online almost all the time. This suggests a bit of a gap where there seem to be some folks who really must be interacting with AI, but it's not very salient to them. They don't perceive it.
So why does that gap exist? Part of the problem is that the term artificial intelligence has been used to refer to a lot of different things.
Artificial intelligence is totally this giant umbrella tent term that is now has become a kitchen sink of everything.
That's Karen Howe. She's a reporter who covers artificial intelligence and society.
In the past, there were distinct disciplines about which aspect of the human brain do we want to recreate. Like, do we want to recreate the vision part? Do we want to recreate our ability to hear, our ability to write and speak?
Giving a machine the ability to see became the field of computer vision. Giving a machine the ability to write and speak became the field of natural language processing. But on their own, these tasks still required a machine to be programmed. If we wanted machines to recognize spam emails, we had to explicitly program them to look out for specific things, like poor spelling and urgent phrasing. That meant the tools weren't very adaptable to complex situations. But that all changed when we started recreating the brain's ability to learn. This became the subfield of machine learning, where computers are trained on massive amounts of data so that instead of needing to hand code rules about what to see or speak or write, those computers can develop rules on their own. With machine learning, a computer could learn to recognize new spam emails by reviewing thousands of existing emails that humans have labeled as spam. The machine recognizes patterns in this structured data and creates its own rules to help identify those patterns. When that training data hasn't been structured and labeled by humans, that method is called deep learning. Most of the time people talk about AI now, they're not talking about the whole field, but specifically these two methods. We'll hear more about that after a word from this video's sponsor.
This episode is presented by Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365, your AI
Computing power, together with the massive amounts of data generated on the internet, made possible a whole new generation of technologies that leveraged machine learning. And existing ones swapped out their algorithms for machine learning too.
A lot of the how in the back has been swapped into AI over time because people have realized, oh wait, we can actually get an even better performance of this product if we just swap our original algorithm, our original code out for a deep learning model.
Now, machine learning and deep learning models power recommendation for shows, music, videos, products, and advertisements. They determine the ranking of items every time we browse search results or social media feeds. They recognize images like faces to unlock phones or use filters, and the handwriting on remote deposit checks. They recognize speech in transcription, voice assistants, and voice-enabled TV remotes. And they predict text in autocomplete and autocorrect. But AI is seeping into more than that.
There has been this tendency over the last 10 plus years where people have started putting AI into absolutely everything.
Machine learning algorithms are already being used to decide which political ads we see, which jobs we qualify for, and whether we qualify for loans or government benefits, and often carry the same biases as the human decisions that preceded them.
Are you actually automating the poor decision making that happened in the past and just bringing it into the future? If you're going to use historical data to predict what's going to happen in the future, you're just going to end up with a future that looks like the past.
And that's part of the reason why it matters to close that gap between those who knowingly interact with AI every day and those who don't quite know it yet.
Awareness needs to grow for folks to be able to participate in some of these conversations about the moral and ethical boundaries, what AI should be used for and what it shouldn't be used for.
Okay. All right. So hopefully everyone here was able to hear and watch that video and understand a bit about it. But the general consensus of that video is that many people, probably even here today, right, are not aware of the usage of AI in everyday things that we do. And as you could see from that video, with the poll, right, from the study that they done, it's kind of split. 40% people are aware and the other half are not. And this presentation today is hopefully going to give you an idea that even though you don't think it, we are using AI and it is currently impacting your life. And hopefully by the end of this, when you start to realize how AI is impacting, how you are using it, you're able to join these conversations maybe in the political world when we start voting on some type of things of how AI is going to impact and affect our life. Once you start to know how AI is being used all throughout different parts of your life, you'll be able to start a conversation. But does anybody have any questions on that video that we saw? Okay. Just know that today you could always unmute yourself or say it in the chat once you have a question. Okay, so right, how does AI already impact our life? So there were many things that were listed in that video that where AI is currently changing our society, our workforce, and even the economy. But just to list some few things that AI is already impacting your life, right? If anyone here today uses Siri on their iPhone, or anyone here today has an Alexa or a Google Assistant, right? Those are all just some things to name a few of how you are using AI. If anyone here today uses Google Maps, Apple Maps, Uber, Lyft, Waze, to figure out the traffic or when the next bus is coming or the train. All of these applications are using AI and looking at vast amount of data to figure out when the bus is coming, how many minutes is going to take to get you from one place to another. And just to name another few that you don't see right here on the slide, but that was shown on the video, right? Things like if anyone here today does online banking and you're someone here today that takes pictures of your checks, right? That's AI, that's being used by AI because AI is detecting what the check is saying, the person's handwriting on the check. If someone here uses a Ring camera, right? AI is using a Ring camera to detect the person's face. And there's just many more examples that we'll look at today, but that's just to name a few of how you are using AI, even if you think you know it. So next time when someone asks you, do you use AI? You have to say yes in some form, right? If you use these different ways that I just listed. But let's just talk a little bit about AI and AI in older adults and how AI will probably impact the older adult population. So there's four categories with how AI can affect older adults now and in the future. And the number one is safety. So with artificial intelligence, these new devices for either a life alert system that you may think of, or even using something as an Apple Watch, those can monitor your health and behavior. So for example, if you are, for example, you may fall, right? These systems, AI devices can detect a fall and send alerts to those caregivers or emergency services. If someone here today wants to start using things for their for their home and make it a smart home, right? Same thing. There are AI devices with life alert systems where you can put in your household fall detection sensors that is being used by AI, voice activated devices. If you have an Alexa, this can be one of those AI devices that can help you and censor things when you may fall to the ground. You can ask Alexa for help and call a family member or friend. Another way AI is being used is independence, right? So, for example, if anyone here today lives alone, there are AI devices, whether that's an app on your phone or a physical device that can help you with daily activities like making sure you're taking your medication, and you know the type of resources that you need. So with these AI devices, they are like personal assistants where hopefully if you are someone that lives alone, you wouldn't have to always count on a family member, a friend to guide you because these AI devices can lead you towards some resources and do and assist with some of these daily activities. And then there are a bit more extreme versions of these AI devices, which is for companionship. So there are, of course, actual physical um, robot devices that older adults use, especially those who are alone, lonely, and isolated. And these type of AI powered robots can start a conversation with you and offer support for you. So if you are someone who's lonely, you could use these AI robots and have a conversation and they can talk with you throughout the day. And it's called ELIQ, ELLIQ, if you wanted to research that after the presentation. That's one of the more well-known popular brands. And then lastly, which is another positive, is of course, there are AI devices such as virtual reality that can help patients who are experiencing dementia or Alzheimer's. And virtual reality can help with mental stimulation for them. Does anybody have any questions on this slide here? Okay.
Is it like Siri? Hi, how are you? Is it like Siri? You can say, remind me.
Yes, Siri is a type of AI device that can do daily tasks for you, like remind me to take my medication, remind to set a timer. Um,
Okay.
so yes.
But ELIQ is better. It's
Well,
stronger.
ELIQ was like an actual robot device that you could purchase in your home to have
Robot.
conversations with. Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas Siri is not something we can actually see, right? It's in our
Right.
phone iPhones.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so now let's talk about different sectors in our life where AI is growing and how we are using it. So let's just talk a little bit about the healthcare, right? AI in healthcare. So with AI technology, there are many things that it could do. From first, of course, kind of like acting like a customer representative assistant or maybe a receptionist, right? So with AI technology, it can help automate paperwork and personalized treatments. So many times, right, people use my chart, and my chart is able to bring up all of your information quickly. You don't have to physically go to the doctor to find those type of things. Same as seeing what's your medication that you're taking, everything that's about you, right, is listed kind of now in the apps. That's not necessarily AI, but in cases where the doctor doesn't want to fill out all of the paperwork, there are systems in place where AI can do the paperwork faster. Um, Also, right, with AI, since AI is constantly collecting thousands of data from not just the older adult population, but throughout the world, right? Not just the US. AI allows doctors to make faster, more accurate diagnosis. So once AI collects tons of people's data, they can figure out whether or not someone is more prone to getting this based on their conditions, their age, and so on, than someone else. So that's a pro with AI. And in very small cases, this doesn't mean that every hospital uses this, but there are some cases where hospitals do use robots for different procedures, mostly invasive ones, to possibly open heart surgery. So the surgeons control the robotic arms while they're seated at a computer console. So it doesn't mean that an actual robot is doing the surgery, right? It means that the doctor itself is using robotic arms to perform the surgery, possibly to get a more precise cut or incision and so on than using their actual hands. Does anyone have questions on this slide? Okay. Then the next one, we do have the financial sector. So this one is a bit interesting. Um, the one main reason how well, before, I don't want to give it away, but probably someone, if you read the slide, you'll figure out the answer. But I'm gonna see if anyone here in the Zoom meeting can figure it out. But do you know one way that AI is being used in the finance sector without reading the slide? Can you think on the top of your head? If you know it, you could unmute yourself.
Yes, I had a problem with a Macy's credit card, and they did not stop bothering me, sending me emails, letters. I mean, no person could do that. It had to be machine oriented. Till I went down there in person for an hour to clear it up, but it was totally machine driven, non-stop annoying. So I didn't.
Okay, I mean, that's something that happens, but I wouldn't say that's necessarily AI.
Well, I think that the persistence with AI. You know what
I mean, it could be, but that's not the answer I'm looking for, but
I
that could be, Alicia.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go over, right? So in the past, right, banks used to rely on traditional systems to monitor transactions and screen names. And usually through these systems, right, even harmless transactions were flagged as suspicious. But now with the AI systems, right, banks are able to kind of detect unusual transactions when it really is an unusual transaction, right? So if they know that you are constantly sending money to this to your rent or to a family member, to a friend, right? If they constantly see those transactions, they're not going to flag it as suspicious through these new AI components because they understand that relationship between you and that company, you and that person. However, in the past, with the traditional systems, if they saw you sending $1,000 to your rent, whoever you pay your rent to, right? The bank probably would have flagged it by accident. But now AI is making it stronger where they understand when truly there's fraud happening. So that's one big reason where you may see it have AI being used for you guys. But another way also is banks are using AI to analyze customer behavior. So what that means is that once, let's say you need a specific customer experience or a specific advertisement or ad, they're using customer behavior, the things that you may like to gear that towards you. So for example, some people may get like the newsletter of their bank or like something big that's happening with the credit cards or so on. They may pick and choose specific marketing groups to send that out to understand customer experience. But AI being used in the finance sector is not always a good pro, especially with this next bullet point here, which is that AI can also determine if someone is likely to repay a loan by analyzing the data to predict the risk. So I don't know for like anyone here today, right? I don't think AI should use kind of data to detect whether or not, we're able to repay a loan. It should be able to, well, I guess in the past, right, with banks and customer representatives, they give us, of course, a deadline, the dates for a credit card. But now with AI, if they detect last month you paid it on this time, and then the month before that it was this time, they're using that information to detect whether or not you'll be able to repay the loan next month. And it may, have a negative impact on us because as the AI gets stronger and the more banks are starting to use AI, right? Possibly they can use it to, affect our credit score in the future. And then lastly, a big opponent that we're seeing right now are the chatbots, right? Powered by AI. So anytime you go online and whether that's a bank or even shopping, you may see like in the corner chat with the company and you're directly talking with AI and they're giving you questions. You're not being able to talk with an agent. So that's a main component of the financial sector that you're no longer really you're getting sent straight to an agent. You're mostly talking to a chat bot where they have the questions and the answers ready for you in different categories. And then eventually, if your question is not being answered, then you're directed to an agent. Does anybody have questions on that? Okay. And then the next one is entertainment, and possibly some people may have known that last year the Writers and Screen Guild, they went on strike due to AI. You may have seen that on the news. They went on a long strike, I think about almost 6 months actually, where most of Hollywood's films were not in production at the moment because of this AI problem. So in the entertainment industry, many companies are starting to use AI to improve customer satisfaction, speed up process, and provide personalized information. But what they wanted to do during the strike was they kind of wanted to use actors' faces to create multiple movies with them without bringing the actor actually on set, right? So with AI technology, you're able to kind of clone people's faces and copy and paste them and create a whole script from AI. And actors didn't want this, and the writers did not want this. They did not want AI to be used to create their own scripts for them. So of course they got into a settlement, and that's not happening at the moment, but it doesn't mean that AI is still not being used in other types of the industry. So some of these here that are listed here are some ways that AI is still being used in the entertainment and in Hollywood. So, for example, thank you. So, yeah. So sorry. So for example, if anyone here today uses any type of streaming service like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, if you're familiar with any of those, right? There are categories where AI is being used to recommend a specific TV show or movie based on your watching habits. So, what that means is, right, let's say you're on Netflix and you watch three movies in a row that are about romance. AI is going to give you a category, and Netflix will say recommended movies for Tabitha. And there'll be all different types of movies that are about romance because that's what Netflix thinks I like. And it's kind of the same on, it's not even for streaming services. If you also use YouTube, anyone here today uses that as well, right? YouTube is going to recommend things that they think you may like, not only by your watching habits, but also by your age that you put when you first signed up for YouTube. So things like that as well. So anytime you see that something's recommended to you, it's most likely being used through AI because AI is giving us personalized recommendations. Same goes with music. So if you use any application on your phone that plays music, like Apple Music or Spotify, and I know some people here today use YouTube for music, it's the same way. They recommend specific songs for us because they think we may like it based on things we've listened in the past. And then also just to mention here, right, AI can also be used in video games. If you have any grandchildren, AI is being used in that, not only to make the movies and games more lifelike, but also to create whether the game is going to be easier or harder based on how the player plays the game. And then lastly, AI is also being used to help Hollywood video editors make create the movie faster, create the cuts faster, delete things that they do not want, and same with music soundtracks. Any questions on that from anyone? Okay. So just some of the risk and dangers of AI. So we kind of went over three main categories of how AI is, you know, changing the healthcare industry, the finance, entertainment, and even, the older adult population, right? So when we think of AI and the way we're training AI, right? AI is being trained through public data, right? AI is not being trained by one person who agreed to give them all their information. AI is being trained from our data. So I know people here today do not, agree, look at all of the terms and agreements, but in the fine print of some of those terms and agreements, there are ways where Google, YouTube, Netflix, we're agreeing for some of our data to be trained through these AI models, right? So with these AI models and with them having public data access, right? The more public data they have, it does increase the chance of security breaches that can possibly expose our personal information. So just like how there's other data security breaches, um, for like hospitals and things like that are mostly the number one target, the same could happen with now AI and how AI is being trained. So if one day, Google has a data security breach because Google now has AI, right, that could expose some of our personal information out in the dark web. Also just to like let you know, because I have two slides next, with the danger of AI, not only does it expose data security breaches, but it also exposes kind of like job losses. It may not be too much of a loss for anyone here today, because maybe some people here today are probably not working anymore. But for, the other generations like me and your grandchildren, your families, and things like that, AI is disrupting worker skills and taking away a lot of job roles. So from 2028, 44% of worker skills will be disrupted. And we'll look on the next slide to see what jobs are affected, what type of worker skills are affected. But from a report by MIT and Boston University, right? The number one kind of main target with AI and job losses are manufacturing workers, that about 2 million people will probably be replaced by AI systems for manufacturing workers by 2025, which is just around the corner. So if you're thinking like how could 2 million manufacturer workers be replaced so easily, well, think of, right, with AI and how there's now robot hands in actual ORs for surgeons. The same thing, AI can be used in robots to lift equipment, in the factory machines to make it faster. Then, right, we could create a AI system robots where they can do the work 10 times faster than a human can. So all these equipments that are on factories and so on, probably is getting implemented with AI systems where they know the data through everything, through the public data, and they're able to just do it faster, do it in a certain way that a human can't, and do it in a way where they're not going to get hurt, right? Because they could always just fix the machine the day after. So here is the report on like the job skills affected and the jobs mostly affected. So this was like a list. Of course, there were more roles, but I'm not gonna fit all of them on the slide. But the main roles that of AI that is mostly going to affect is, for one, customer service representative. So basically, when you think of a customer service representative, think of like all the times you tried to talk to one over the phone and you had to click on one on your phone, then two, and then three, and then four, and then you're yelling, and then finally they connect you with an agent, right? So just think of that. Think of how hard it's getting for you to actually talk with someone on the phone these days. Um, you can see why a customer service representative is slowly going to be, not slowly, but sorry, not slowly, but the most affected quickly in the upcoming years to 2028. The next is a receptionist. So I'll give you a few examples, right? Sometimes in offices, I see them mostly in Manhattan, but I'm sure maybe in Riverdale they have some. But let's say you're going into a spa place or even like a dentist office, and they ask you to check in, and they ask you to check in on either a, actual little monitor screen you can actually check in, or sometimes they ask you to check in with a QR code, right? All of that is eventually going to be replacing a receptionist if we're constantly using our phone to check in for our appointments, right? Usually receptionists, one of their day-to-day jobs is that of course that's only one of the parts of their role, but if these AI systems get stronger, right, I'm sure they can create a type of AI receptionist that can fill out the rest of the duties. So that's why it's also listed here. The next is accountants and bookkeepers. So all of that data that the accountants do or bookkeepers do, um, the AI system on a computer screen can do it 10 times faster, unfortunately, with the way AI is growing. AI can create a whole Excel sheet for you, bar graphs with thousands amount of data that you put it into that, of course, a human could do, but it will take a bit of time. Also, salespeople, right? AI can generate different types of advertisements for us and send it out to different types of groups and generate it to those that they see fit. We talked about warehouse, and then lastly, retail. So when I say retail, I'm thinking of shopping stores. So for example, you probably have seen it before, maybe you haven't, but there are self-checkout machines. And the self-checkout machines that I'm mostly talking about is if you ever been to a Zara or a Uniqlo, their self-checkout machines is like a bucket and a screen. And if you put your clothing item that you want into the bucket, the screen automatically can detect what shirt it is, how much the price is, and so on, without even having to scan it. You just directly put it into the bucket. And those are the only two stores that I know that has it. But with this AI system and with these stores already doing it in 2024, you can imagine in 2028 that they probably wouldn't be any more cashiers in retail stores in the mall or so on. Because there are systems that exist where your clothes can get scanned automatically by just throwing it in a box, and you could just use your phone or your card to tap on the screen and pay for it. So these are the jobs that possibly by 2028 will be mostly affected and decreasing in the future. Does anybody have questions on that? Okay. And then the next are a list of jobs that AI can't replace. And I'm gonna ask those here today in the meeting. Can anyone like tell me why these jobs can't be replaced? Like what is the common factor between all these roles here?
Communication.
Okay, when somebody said communication, that's good, yes.
Judgment.
Judgment, okay.
Well, there's specific issues in each one that may not carry through the other one.
Hmm. But what's one thing that when you think of like a robot, or an AI, right? AI, like what's one thing that an AI can never replicate that a human can do?
thinking and talking?
No, it could do that. It could do thinking and talking, right? Because that's how it generates all the data that we want
Not
for us.
original. It's not original. It's only what's programmed in.
I mean, that's true, but
They can't
that's
give
not.
them, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead.
they can't be empathetic to a human being.
Yes, there we go. So that's the one I was looking for. Empathetic and kind of like the emotional aspect, right? So when we think of some of these roles here, um think of like the emotions and the way that these roles kind of communicate with humans, right? You wouldn't want an AI to be your therapist because they're just going to give you basic straight facts. If you tell them a story about you from your childhood to now, they'll probably generate something that they generated to another person that will probably use the AI system. Whereas a human will be empathetic with you and talk with you and yes, an AI can listen, but it's not the same as human interaction. And the same with teachers. I know this is not a list from like 1 through 10, so they're not out of order. I just kind of threw them all on the screen. But another one that was really high that jobs can't replace is teachers because of the way a teacher can empathize with the student, the way a teacher can discipline a student, right? When we think of the pandemic and how we all had to move, well, not all, but how students and me, my college experience had to go through a computer screen. We realized that it's not the same than actually being in a classroom and being physically with a teacher. So they can come to us, explain the question properly, discipline us, and so on. It definitely did affect the students and their well-being. So it shows you that we do physically need to be here for teachers and for most of the roles here. I mean, with performing arts, right? um when we think of like Broadway shows and the way they express themselves, we wouldn't want an AI robot doing that and performing that for us. We would like to see it through a real human showing emotions. So these are why these jobs are listed as those that AI can't replace. No matter how strong AI gets in the future, these roles will most likely still be around in the next 50 years. Does anybody have questions on that? Okay, well, so that's what I have for today's presentation. If you have any other questions, you can let me know, but that's all for today. I am gonna post last week's presentation about AI scams on our YouTube page and this one today as well. So if you look tomorrow on our YouTube page, RSS Center for Ageless Living, you can rewatch these two presentations. And next week is July 4th, but I'll see you guys again the week after.